was weird.
Everything good technically?
Everything technically is okay now. Please, everybody, don't worry. Do not call the authorities. Everything. Do not call your local congressman. Everything is fine now. One of the mics disappeared, but it's back.
Ralph does all of this, so if it fails, guess who's not helpful?
This lady.
This lady is zero help on the front. Yeah, I just sit here and wait for Ralph to figure it out.
It's all figured out. It's okay. We're good. We're going.
Did you miss us, everyone?
I missed everybody.
Yeah, we had a mini hiatus.
We had a little mini hiatus. It's the temperatures got way too high here in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, it's hot.
It still has 93 degrees Fahrenheit here.
At what time?
At 5:10 in the evening. So I don't know what that is in Celsius. They don't teach us that in America.
No.
I have no idea. But it's hot. It's very hot. So we took a break.
I do my best to not complain because I complain so much about the cold that I just try to shut up when it's hot.
No,
yeah. I really do like hot. I mean, this is a little much. I have my air on, even though it's on 79. This is a lot, but
it is, yeah.
I still prefer it over the cold. I know I'm weird.
No, I'm the same way. I like the summer. I like when it's hot. I like to be able to walk around in shorts and a t-shirt, and I don't like wearing shoes. So summer's my jam. Winter, I'm miserable. Yeah. Also because I like a lot of light, and the winter is dark. So for me, it's just a happier time.
Like people live in Alaska where it's dark like all the time in the winter. I would be in a hospital.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like, oh, the sun just set and it won't come back up for a couple months.
Right.
No thanks.
Like a bear in hibernation.
I'm all right. I will stay right where I am. Thank you very much.
People do it. I know the summers in Alaska are supposed to be absolutely insanely beautiful, and there's tons of sunlight. So I'll go there in the summer all day. But the winter in Alaska, no, thank you. There's
a large. I've been looking at weird maps recently because why not? And there's a map of Canada where all of 90% of the population is like almost on the border with the United States, and everything else in Canada is just like this huge, open, uninhabited swath.
Really?
Wilderness, yeah.
That's a new fact. I didn't know.
It's interesting. It's interesting if you have a chance, look up like population centers on the globe, like where people really live. It's really interesting. Like we think the world is full of people, but there's huge parts of the world where nobody is. It's really interesting.
Do you want to go there though now, these places?
I do.
I'm all about it. Let's get our tent and go.
I wanna rent a cabin in the middle of nowhere.
It'd be interesting to see who's hiding in there though, even though it wasn't on
in
your
the
map.
cabin that I just rented.
In your Airbnb in the middle of nowhere. You'll just take an Uber. Oh, they're not there. Right. No, maybe. But like somebody's out there.
Oh sure, yeah.
But like wonder how they're living compared to us.
Probably a lot happier. That's for damn sure.
Oh God, it's hot. Right.
That's for damn sure.
What have you been up to? It's been like 2 weeks.
It's been a wild ride for the past couple weeks, and we figured why not talk about it and make it a whole episode, because I'm going to share something with everybody because we're such good friends now, all of us. Yeah. We all know each other. We love each other. Past couple weeks, I have been dealing with a really, bad case of anxiety, like super duper on steroids anxiety. And it got so bad to the point where we had to I was like, can we postpone and get together next week? And it got to the point where I was like, I couldn't sleep, and it was, every day was just thoughts of like, what am I doing? I can't handle this. I can't do this. I'm in over my head. So eventually I'm better now. Everything's great. I'm feeling a ton better and getting stuff done, but I thought it would be beneficial to talk about it. Why not? I mean, I know people who have really bad anxiety. I've had bad anxiety in the past. So this is like the first time in a while that this has happened, but why not? I mean, the more we talk about this stuff, the less of a stigma it has for people.
Yeah, and you were brave enough to want to talk about it, and so that'll be cathartic for you, but
not
also
brave.
Help a lot of people.
Not brave. Just we don't have anything else to talk about.
Yes, we do.
It is endless. Sorry.
Topic.
Sorry. I of course, as soon as we start recording, my voice is like, nope, not today. Taking a break.
Refreshing iced tea on this hot
Yeah,
day.
right. let me take a swig of iced tea.
Do that.
Great. I could have drank that louder for people so I could hear. I tried to slurp as loud as possible. It's surround sound, just so you know. Yeah. So yeah, I guess this one is how can I manage my anxiety, the anxiety monster, when it rears its ugly head? And I know a lot of people, especially right now with the way the world is, we're all dealing with some level of anxiety in some way. And even if you're a professional and you think you got your S together, nobody has their 100% of their stuff together. I know we've said that before, but yeah.
No.
Not at all.
They're lying if they say it.
Yeah, people
not
are
all
lying.
the time. Maybe you go through periods of time where you feel like I got this.
Right. But not all the time. So my anxiety, I think I've had it forever. Like my entire life, I think I've been struggling with anxiety in some way, shape, or form. And we were just talking about dreams before we started taping. And does anybody say taping anymore? Recording? Am I dating myself saying taping?
It's taping.
My giant reels, like I load a giant reel onto a machine and tape this episode in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah.
What we've talked about dreams, and I've, for as far back as I can remember, have always had dreams about being chased, being in danger, being in a big storm. Like that's a big one. Like just being trapped somewhere, like, and it's some things that are like out of my control, or like I'm fighting just to keep my head above water, kind of thing. So those actually, I haven't had those dreams in a long time, in maybe 5 years, maybe longer. I don't know why they stopped, to be honest, but I've had those as long as I can remember. And it would come with the anxiety of like feeling just like I'm over my head, imposter syndrome, like I can't do this. People are going to find out I'm a fraud. They're going to hate me. And it's popped up every so often, but this was a new one of like just not being able to shake. It was just a general feeling of, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know what in your professional life, what kind of, like if people come to you with anxiety, what kind of symptoms do they have?
Well, I think there's a ton. Do you want me to list through them? I mean,
please list all of them.
No, but there's definitely like the loop, people call it, the anxiety loop, where your brain just goes, sometimes it's one topic, sometimes it's a bunch of topics of things to worry about. It's catastrophizing, which basically means like this fear that all these things are going to happen, but you have no evidence that it's going to happen. Obsessive thoughts, so being stuck, sort of like the loop. Being stuck worrying about something that's out of your control and you can't get it off of your brain. And it can cause like sweating, a lot of distraction, trouble focus. It can paralyze you. It can increased heart rate, trouble sleeping, trouble eating, all that stuff. I could go on and on.
Never had trouble eating though. That's my superpower.
Yeah, so it can manifest itself in a whole bunch of different ways. What else did you ask me?
No, that was it. Like what kind of symptoms people have when they are experiencing anxiety. I know for me, and also not so much anymore, but it still pops up from time to time. Like I used to have a very nervous stomach, so anytime my anxiety would pop up, I'd be like, oh, I'll be right back. Like that's another one. That's another big one. So if anybody's listening and you have problems with anxiety, that's why I wanted to do this. I want people to just be aware, like, you're not alone. People feel like this all the time in varying degrees. And, you know, whatever your symptoms are, just know that other people are feeling it too.
Yeah, and you can't often see it. Sometimes you can tell someone's anxious, but people mask it really well. Sometimes, I don't want to say it's more than depression, but people can mask it. Like it can be so hidden, and so isolating and make you feel so alone because it takes over almost. I like when you called it the monster earlier. I was thinking, and I cannot remember the name of this book to save my life right now. But there's a bunch of children's books that were created to help kids with different mental health problems and different issues. I used to use them when I worked with kids, and there's one for anxiety, and it is literally like it is identified as a monster in the story. And I think that's great too because it separates it. Like, yes, the anxiety is sort of like when it's bad, it takes over, but it's not you.
Right.
You know, it's something that manifests itself within you. But if you look at it as like something that's not you, but something that's kind of invaded you, I feel like it gives you more of a sense of empowerment of being able to manage it. Whereas when you think, well, I'm just anxious, this is me, then you feel powerlessness and hopelessness, and you know, like you just have to sit in it and there's nothing else you can do about it. So I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, that bears repeating. Like if you're somebody who's just like, I'm just an anxious person, that's all there is to it, I think that you're selling yourself short, number one, and also it's taking all the power out of it for you. Like you, again, just ask the question, why? You know, like, why am I feeling this way? What's happening in my life that's triggering it? You know, just being curious about it because, and I realize the world that we live in right now is a very anxious place. There is war, there is hunger, there is disease, there is global warming, there is, you know, especially if you live in the United States, there's a whole bunch of people wanting to take a whole bunch of rights away from a whole bunch of other people. So it's like, there's not a lot of room and time for somebody to catch their breath and say, oh, okay, I can relax now. So of course we're all caught in a loop of like, oh my God, the world is ending. You know, I mean, it's easy to feel that way. So you're definitely not alone if you feel that way because everybody is feeling that way, I think, to some degree.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to get off too much on the political piece, but people are feeling a lot of powerlessness. At least clients have reported that to me, and hopelessness. Because I think before people were like, go and vote and volunteer for XYZ activism group or whatever, but now people are feeling like that's not even doing anything. And so there is a lot of hopelessness and anxiety, and I think it also depression gets involved with it too. I've heard people talking about that a little bit. But I think that, what was I going to say? Well, right, when you were saying before, and we were talking about it being a separate thing that you can learn to manage and cope with, you know, I think that when you don't feel like you can do that and you feel very hopeless and very overwhelmed and like it's always going to be like this, then that causes anxiety. That's the thing that's even worse. Is like when you can't manage it, or if it gets better for a minute, but you're like waiting for it to come back, and you're anxious about your anxiety. And so that's why learning how to cope with it, understanding the triggers for it, like you touched on, possibly medicine if you need that, you know, whatever the case may be, starts to give people this sense of confidence around. I've watched this happen. It's so great to watch. People then become confident around their ability to manage it, and that actually in and of itself will help the anxiety. Because you got the toolbox, which is either you figure out what works, or you work with a professional who helps you, and then you start to utilize things when you see that they're actually working. And so then when those symptoms pop up, you're less anxious about the symptoms and you know what to do to sort of alleviate them. Yeah.
And you're kind of touching on the loop again that we keep there's definitely a really strong anxiety loop that you can get caught in. And it feeds on itself. And you said being anxious about your anxiety. That's exactly what it is. Of like, you start to get anxious, and then you're like, oh no, you know, I can. But then you become conscious of your anxiety, and then you get anxious because you're feeling the anxiety, and then it starts to feed on itself. It's like a sneak.
It's like a snowball going down the hill.
Right. And it just gets bigger and bigger.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's the thing that's tough about, well, many things, but we're talking about anxiety here, is that it's one of those things that you need to pay attention and address it to keep it from the snowball from rolling down the hill, right? And you want to learn how to cope with it. So you have to address that it's there. But if you give anxiety too much attention or the wrong kind of attention, it gets bigger.
Right.
So it's that balance. You've got to figure out, how do I see it's happening, address it, and feel better, versus versus is the right word, but like not paying so much attention to it that you're actually making it worse. That make sense to you?
Yes. And I think we